Most people think you need $2 million to retire. But in this scenario we're reviewing today, Mark has $750,000 saved and invested, and he wants to retire at 63. Today, I'll reveal step by step how we tested his plan, the levers that we pulled, and the results, even after stress testing for bad markets, unexpected healthcare costs, and different aspects of the situation. My name is Joe Bogan. I'm a certified financial planner who has worked on hundreds of retirement planning consultations over the years. While the names and some of the details of this scenario have been modified and fictionalized, this is based on real life planning, and the case brings together many important principles in our day-to-day work as retirement planners for individuals and couples. So let's meet Mark. Mark is married to Sally. When they agreed to come on, we started with the information gathering phase, looking at expenses, investments, goals, risk tolerance, tax rates, employee benefit packages, and much more. Together, Mark and Sally have a goal to retire and spend about $55,000 per year, which would achieve a modest but valuable lifestyle for them. Over their career, they have managed to pay off their mortgage on their home and accumulate a nest egg when we add all the accounts up together to around $750,000. We talked with them and discovered that they are worried about two important things: retiring too soon and spending too fast, resulting in them outliving their money. But on the other side, they don't want to work longer than they need to and waste valuable years that they have while they're in good health. Our job wasn't to guess. It's to model the choices, quantify the trade-offs, and give them more clarity about how they can thread that needle with their retirement timeline. So once we gathered all the information, we build a baseline Monte Carlo test. Retire at 63, claim Social Security at that date, and spend $55,000 per year every year, adjusted for inflation going forward. The results were about 55% chance of success. Now, Monte Carlo can be a powerful tool, but it's not always clear what the output means. A Monte Carlo simulation is a statistical tool that simulates retirement 2,000 different times and gives us a probability of success based on how those all go. Given a variety of possible future outcomes, it doesn't give us a root cause behind a plan that has a less than desirable score. As financial planners, what we have to do is then go in and analyze the situation and determine that the higher risk came from these certain factors. In this case, we determined that it was probably because of the early Social Security claiming, which meant smaller lifetime benefits. Their plan also had higher withdrawals, especially for those earlier years, and we had projected private healthcare costs that were pretty significant in their base plan because they were retiring before 65 and had to pay for private healthcare. I'm going to walk through the changes that we made for Mark and Sally in a moment, but if you're watching this and wondering if you could be getting more clarity on your retirement plan, grab a free mini financial plan with me. It's a simple, no strings way to see exactly where you stand and what to do next. Click the link in the description below, and within a few days, we will send you a 5-minute mini review video. So in Plan A, which we just reviewed, retire at 63, Social Security at 63, no spending change. Success rate around 55%. Plan B was retire at 63, delay Social Security to 67, and spend the same amount. The success rate in this scenario was around 70%. This is because the pessimistic projections were improved. Social Security increases the floor of your plan later down the road. So there's a reduced chance of running out of money later on in life because your Social Security is a lot higher at that point. Lastly, we showed them Plan C, which is our optimized plan. We delay Social Security until 67, and then additionally, we make a few other changes, which included trimming $400 a month in discretionary spending after those first 10 years of retirement. It also included income planning for the first couple of years of retirement to reduce their taxable income and qualify for certain healthcare subsidies to reduce the impact of healthcare costs on their plan. We also incorporated some investment changes, including a glide path to reduce risk up into retirement and a reverse glide path after retirement to maintain higher equity allocations throughout their entire plan. The results in this plan were a jump up to about 90% success rate. So let's take a closer look at some of these key recommendations. In the base plan, withdrawals were above 4% as Social Security kicks in immediately and dips a little bit below 4% only slightly after Sally, the spouse, takes retirement income at her full retirement age later. This is not terrible by itself, but the 4% rule is typically only good for 30 years and does not account for spending shocks that might occur over time, which include the possibility of end-of-life long-term care shocks. In the first 5 years of retirement, the data shows that 80% of retirees experience a spending shock above their anticipated living expenses, not even considering the potential for the end-of-life care expenses, which can be quite significant if they don't have an alternative plan to provide for that age. In our optimized plan, the withdrawals were a lot higher at the first few years, but they dropped dramatically to about 2.5% at around 67. This difference is why small changes matter so much. Additionally, we recommended a withdrawal strategy that balances their taxable account distributions over those first 2 years, which will help Mark keep his taxable income low enough that they will likely be able to qualify for heavily subsidized health care plans until both him and Sally are eligible to transition to Medicare at 65. This significantly reduced their projected medical costs and boosted the potential success of their financial plan. So we incorporated all these recommendations in our financial planning software, and then we tested it against 3 different potential shocks: a 20% drop of markets right before their retirement, a Social Security reduction in and through retirement, and an unexpected healthcare bill that surges their costs at some point in retirement. In every stress test that we analyzed, Plan C held up far better than any of the other scenarios, especially the base case scenario. Instead of the plan totally breaking at these stressors, these shocks only reduced their probability of success modestly. And this gave Mark a real boost in confidence that helped him to be freer of his money worries. That's the value of engineering a plan for the bad years and not just hoping and relying that everything will work out perfectly for you in the future. We also made critical adjustments to the investment strategy. Mark scored high on his risk tolerance, but we had to take steps to provision against some of the new risks that their plan faces as they get closer to retirement. A market correction of over 20% may not be as big of a deal while you're working and contributing to your 401k account. But if it occurs right before retirement and you don't have a plan against that, it can potentially derail your retirement planning because you may be forced to sell significant portions of your equity portfolio at losses. The window of 3 to 5 years before retirement and 3 to 5 years after retirement is known as your retirement risk zone, where the elevated risk of markets impacting your retirement income is quite substantial. So we took important steps to help Mark address these risks in his plan. Our approach consisted of a light reverse glide path, shifting from 70% equity down to 60% equity as we enter retirement. We're going to hold steady and gradually raise equities as time goes on after the retirement date and if markets provide enough support for a cushion in his plan. The way that we spend down is with the conservative investment bucket in those years after retirement to increase equity allocations incrementally over time. This is known as the bucket approach, and it's used to avoid selling their equities and stocks in down markets as best as possible. Research has shown that in academic studies, this type of dynamic spending approach has real potential to boost the bottom line results of a retirement strategy compared to pro rata distributions across all of your investments, which is what most retirees could very well be likely to default with, especially if they're relying on target date funds in their retirement plan. Now, what about Roth conversions? In Mark's case, converting early in retirement would raise his early withdrawal rates by nearly a full percent, right when we want to keep them low, and our projections did not show his tax rates increasing significantly later on in retirement. Plus, any Roth conversions would boost our taxable income, making it more challenging to plan around healthcare costs. Since we're also suggesting Social Security deferral, which is going to raise his early withdrawal rates, we determined that it's probably best to hold off on Roth conversions for now. But we'll revisit each year and determine if there is a compelling case for this type of strategy. So let's put it all together. Here's what made the difference in Mark's plan: delaying Social Security, phasing out a bit of his discretionary spending after those early go years of retirement, planning around the realized income and gaining the potential for reduced medical costs early on in retirement before 65, and adding a clear set of investment rules and guardrails into their retirement plan. Mark didn't necessarily need more savings. He needed a clear structure, timing, sequencing, and rules to help him feel more confident. None of these were a magic fix, and there remains some risk. There's investment risk, since Mark is going to be maintaining a relatively high equity allocation in and through his retirement. There's also spending risks that he may not be able to adhere to his spending plan that we've outlined, especially for those reductions after year 10 in retirement. And there's always changing rules around healthcare costs and Social Security. But Mark and Sally feel more educated and more comfortable with their plan and trade-offs that they're prepared to make. And they are more eagerly looking forward to their retirement than ever before. So if you're in your 50s or 60s with $500,000 or more saved and you're close, you think, to retirement, remember, it's not about hitting a magic number. It's about aligning your income, spending, and risks in a unique and balanced way for your future. If you'd like to see some analysis on your own situation, click the link in the description below, and we will send you a completely free 5-minute mini review video within a couple of days. Thanks, and until next time.